A highway stop turned battle for justice. Under the golden September sun, the Thompson family cruised down Interstate 85 in their black SUV, headed for a weekend retreat in the Blue Ridge Mountains. Henry Thompson, a 52-year-old senior attorney with a reputation for dismantling injustice in Atlanta courtrooms, sat behind the wheel. His wife, Clara, a community organizer with a fire in her eyes, hummed along to jazz drifting from the speakers. In the back seat, their kids, 12-year-old Emma and 9-year-old Noah, bickered playfully over a shared tablet. The promise of crisp mountain air and a rare escape from their busy lives hung in the air until flashing red and blue lights shattered the moment. Henry glanced in the rearview mirror, his jaw tightening as he signaled and pulled onto the shoulder. Clara's humming stopped, replaced by a wary glance. "Stay calm, kids," she murmured, her voice steady but laced with caution. A tall figure emerged from the police cruiser, his swagger unmistakable. Officer Daniel Carter, a cop with a chip on his shoulder and a history of unchecked prejudice, approached with a sneer. Unbeknownst to him, he was about to ignite a firestorm that would shake the foundations of his authority. Henry lowered the window, his demeanor calm but unyielding. "Afternoon, officer," he said, his voice carrying the measured cadence of a man who'd faced countless opponents in court. Carter's mirrored sunglasses reflected Henry's steady gaze, but his tone dripped with contempt. "License and registration," he barked, skipping pleasantries. Henry complied, his movements deliberate, and ventured, "May I ask why we were stopped?" Carter's lips curled into a smirk. "Routine check," he said, his words clipped and dismissive. Clara leaned forward, her voice polite but firm. "We're just on a family trip, officer." Carter's eyes lingered on her, then flicked to the kids, as if searching for something to justify his suspicion. Emma and Noah, sensing the shift, fell silent, their eyes wide. The officer's demeanor grew sharper. "Step out of the vehicle," he ordered Henry, his tone laced with provocation. A crowd began to form, passing drivers slowing, phones raised to capture the unfolding scene. Henry stepped out, his lawyer's instincts kicking in. "What's the suspicion here, officer?" "We're just a family on vacation." Carter's face hardened. "Mind if I search the car?" The question was less a request than a challenge. Henry's response was swift and even. "That won't be necessary, officer. We know our rights." The air crackled with tension, the crowd's murmurs growing louder. Clara watched from the car, her heart pounding but her faith in Henry unshaken. "Kids, it's okay," she whispered, though her stomach churned. Carter pressed harder, his voice low and menacing. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Henry stood his ground, his words sharp yet composed. "By insisting on our rights?" The standoff teetered on the edge until a second police cruiser pulled up. Sergeant Michael Hayes, a grizzled veteran with a no-nonsense air, stepped out. "What's going on here, Carter?" he demanded, his eyes scanning the scene. Carter's bravado faltered as he stammered through an explanation, his justification sounding hollow. Henry remained a pillar of calm, his presence a silent rebuke. Hayes turned to Henry. "Mr. Thompson, I apologize for the inconvenience. You're free to go." The crowd erupted in quiet cheers, phones still recording as Carter slunk back to his cruiser, his authority tarnished under the midday sun. Back in the SUV, the Thompsons drove on, but the weight of the encounter lingered. Clara squeezed Henry's hand. "You were incredible," she said, pride in her voice. Henry's eyes stayed on the road. "We did what we had to for our family and for what's right." Emma, her voice small, asked, "Dad, why was he so angry?" Henry paused, choosing his words. "Some people fear what they don't understand, sweetheart. But real power comes from knowing who you are and standing by it." The incident didn't end on the highway. A video captured by a bystander, a young journalist named Sarah Mitchell, went viral, sparking outrage across Atlanta. Sarah's article, "A Family Stand Against Unjust Authority," painted the Thompsons' ordeal as a microcosm of systemic bias. Shared across social media, it fueled heated debates, some praising the Thompsons' courage, others defending Carter's routine stop. The story struck a nerve, exposing divides over race, power, and justice. Henry and Clara refused to let the moment pass. At a community meeting in a local church hall, they joined neighbors, activists, and leaders like James Carter, a soft-spoken barber whose shop was a hub for honest talk. "This isn't just about one cop," James said, his voice steady. "It's about a system that lets this happen." Nods rippled through the room as attendees, from elderly retirees to young professionals, shared their own stories of harassment and fear. The Thompsons became reluctant leaders. Clara organized forums, her charisma drawing diverse voices, teachers, pastors, even skeptical business owners. Henry, leveraging his legal expertise, connected with civil rights attorney Laura Bennett, whose courtroom tenacity was legendary. Together, they built a coalition demanding police reform, independent oversight, mandatory training, and transparency in disciplinary records. But resistance loomed. Deputy Chief Robert Langley, a cunning operator within the Atlanta PD, orchestrated secret meetings to quash the growing unrest, rallying loyalists to protect the status quo. The movement gained an unexpected ally in John Ramsey, a former detective turned whistleblower. Shunned by his old colleagues, John carried a flash drive containing damning evidence. Internal emails revealing Langley's efforts to bury complaints and derail reform. At a late-night meeting in the Thompsons' living room, John handed over the files. "The public deserves to know," he said, his voice heavy with resolve. Henry's eyes met Clara's. "This changes everything." They devised a plan. Henry shared the evidence with Laura, who prepared a legal challenge, while Clara coordinated with Sarah to leak the files to trusted outlets. At a packed town hall, the Thompsons took the stage, projecting the incriminating emails onto a screen. Gasps filled the room as Langley's words contained the narrative, divert the unrest, exposed a calculated cover-up. Clara's voice rang out. "This isn't just about exposing lies. It's about demanding a system that serves us all." Henry followed, his tone resolute. "We're here to heal through action reforms that ensure fairness and accountability." The crowd roared, a mix of anger and hope. City Councilman David Ortiz, once cautious, pledged support, his office becoming a hub for policy drafts. The leaked files ignited a firestorm. Protests swelled, editorials demanded change, and even skeptical residents joined the call. But Langley fought back, spinning tales of rogue activists to discredit the movement. The debate raged online and in diners, with some arguing the Thompsons were stirring trouble, while others hailed them as heroes. The controversy only amplified the story's reach, trending on platforms like X and drawing national attention. The climax came in a packed Atlanta courthouse. Officer Carter faced charges of misconduct, but the trial was bigger than one man. It was a referendum on systemic bias. Henry, testifying as both victim and advocate, faced the judge. "We're not here for revenge," he said, his voice steady. "We're here to demand a system that honors dignity over authority." Laura's arguments, backed by John's evidence, dismantled the defense's claims, exposing a pattern of unchecked abuses. The verdict was a turning point. Carter was disciplined, and the city agreed to sweeping reforms: independent oversight boards, body camera mandates, and community-led training programs. At a city square ceremony, Ortiz signed the new laws, flanked by the Thompsons. Clara spoke to the cheering crowd. "This is a beacon for every city, proof that change comes when we refuse to settle." Fireworks lit the sky, a symbol of victory and a call to stay vigilant. Months later, Atlanta felt transformed. Schools taught civic rights, businesses funded outreach, and neighborhoods hosted forums. Emma and Noah, shaped by their parents' fight, joined youth councils, their voices echoing the legacy. The Thompsons, now mentors, guided other cities, their story a blueprint for change. Pockets of resistance lingered, hardline officers and skeptical commentators, but the tide had turned. The city, once shadowed, glowed with possibility. Henry and Clara stood on their porch, watching the sunset. "We did it," Clara said, her hand in his. Henry nodded. "For our kids and for everyone who'll come after." Their journey, from a highway stop to a movement, proved that courage could rewrite history. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about the Thompsons' fight against injustice? How do you view the role of community in tackling systemic issues like police misconduct? Share your perspective, whether you agree, disagree, or see another angle. Let's spark a conversation about justice and accountability in our world.